underneath.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I want to see what they drew. Okay, good morning to everybody watching online. Sorry, so this is the picture. Oh, this is for Sif Aleph, and that it's dripping into the. Okay, that's cool. That a picture of the Sif Bays. Okay, this is the wick. The picture of the wick that draws from two bowls. That's Sif Bays, right? Um, And then what about the flea that was underneath? Oops. Here, good. So you see here, I still don't understand how it's dripping so poorly, whatever. Like maybe they had perforations by not perfect. Maybe their bowls weren't perfect, but you see here in this edition, you see the picture here of the clee, putting the clee underneath to catch the drip, the oil that's dripping. Again, I'm not sure where the oil is dripping out of. I guess it's just that there was not perfectly constructed. We take for granted that we buy a bowl and it's a perfect bowl and it doesn't have any little holes. It could be that there were holes, and
Yeah.
I remember when I was learning at Yeridea, and we were good morning, and we were discussing whether or not. Hi, Richie. Good morning. We just started out, so I don't know how that means for 8:30 minute, but you're also welcome to come. I don't know if the 9 o'clock we have a parent teammate. I think Kobe said he was coming, so in case you want to dive with Kobe. Um, but so I don't know what this means in terms of um, um, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But we were in terms of the picture, right? We're learning over there, and we are talking about like koshering pots, and they had more porous things than we do. Like our pots are really perfectly made. There's very little that's absorbed into the pots, but that wasn't always the case. When we're talking about the pots of the Talmudic times. Yeah, sorry, everyone needs a sheet here. Here it is. Oh, you have okay. We're coming prepared these days. Okay, so we're Reish Samech, and we are we were studying Sif Gimel last week. I think that I want to go over a few things. Last week we came across this idea of mivatel kli mehecheno of nullifying a vessel from what its prepared usage is, like from the word lahachin is to prepare. So mehecheno is from what it was prepared for. So I want to reread Sif Gimel and reread some of the Mishnah Berurah. So we'll go a little quicker. Um, um, but we saw in Sif Gimel. This is in the Shulchan Aruch upstairs. Einos nekli Shabbos tachas haner lekabel shemen hanotev. V'neishu mevatel kli mehecheno. You're not allowed to place a vessel on Shabbos. And that's important because we'll make a distinction between if you do this before Shabbos or on Shabbos. Okay, so again, Sif Gimel up on top. So he says here that you're not allowed to do this to catch the dripping oil. Okay, maybe they didn't have Tommy's picture in that other or sorry, Bruce's edition over there. You can it is, but the one that Bruce is using shows a picture of the oil that's dripping down, and you're putting a bowl to catch the oil. Okay, if you are to show everybody that picture over there, it's just you have something that's it's dripping off out of. Still struggling to see where it's dripping out of, but there's some hole in it, and you recognize that there's a hole, and so you want to catch it. So that's what you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. Why? Because that is going to make the bowl in that picture that Bruce just showed everybody underneath no longer usable, and that's not something we're allowed to do. We're not allowed to take a bowl that is perfectly usable for soup, for salad, for all sorts of permissible usages. And now, in the middle of Shabbos, designate that this thing is going to catch something that is muktzah. The oil that's in there is muktzah. It's set aside. Yes, oil, as I've told you before, you can use it for anything, for dress the salad, whatever it could be. But if it's in the bowl where it's being absorbed into the wick that is on fire, that all that oil is now set aside. You have a similar concept, by the way, on Hanukkah. You light the Hanukkah candles. There's a whole bunch of oil in the little cup. If the light goes out or before the rest of the oil is used, you can't now take that oil and use it for the salad. Maybe you wouldn't want to do it anyways because that would be disgusting at that point. But in theory, if you had some other usage for, you can't, because this was set aside for the mitzvah of Neros Hanukkah. So it's very similar that this is now set aside. It's mukta, and it's not usable for Shabbos, on Shabbos.
That oil from the Hanukkah, you could use it next day for the same purpose?
I think so. It could be used for Neros Hanukkah.
Right.
But for any other purpose, that's why it's a big question about the last day of Hanukkah. When it's there's no more Hanukkah candles till next year, can you take that oil and do something else with it, or was it huktzah l'mitzvah? And then the question is, when Hanukkah is over, though, am I allowed to use it? Here, the question is also what happens. This is the part. This is the part I think I missed last week in my explanation as I went back in my head. The oil is muktzah on Shabbos, but after Shabbos, anything that was caught in that bowl, can I use it or not? And the answer is yeah, I should be able to use it. No problem. And it gets muktzah when it came into Shabbos because it was in the lamp, set aside on Shabbos as as hooked
fuel source.
Is exactly. And as he says here, now let's read the Mishnah Berurah with just that fact in mind. And one other fact, by the way, also is that if that oil is going to be a mutter come Motzei Shabbos, there's a category that comes into play here, a very important halacha category, and that's called a davar sheyesh lo matirin. Okay, that's something that has the ability to become mutter again at some point. And there's a very important rule that a davar sheyesh lo matirin. It's a big rule in the world of kashrus. Davar sheyesh lo matirin, it's never batel. That's going to be important to come up today in our learning. Meaning you can never nullify it. For example, something coming up in our lives in about a month from now, also called, according to some, is a davar sheyesh lo matirin, which is chametz. Chametz is not allowed on Pesach, but the moment that Pesach is over, it is mutter again to consume chametz, and therefore,
unless you owned it or
right, good. Unless I owned it, then there's a penalty though, meaning that's min haTorah. Min haTorah, it's mutter, but Rabbi Shimon has the knas in the Masechet Pesachim that if you own chametz over Pesach, as a penalty, you're not allowed to consume it
ever.
Right, correct, la'olam. But what happens if chametz?
But you sold the chametz. You didn't know.
If you didn't own it,
right? If you didn't know, as long as you don't own it, then it's okay, right? But one of the categories that I think it's the I'm really not remembering clearly right now, but maybe it's the Rambam. The Rambam might actually describe why is chametz not batel. Right? We're so machmir when it comes to chametz. Right, if a little drop of chametz falls into, mixes in, even if it's less than shishim, a 60th. No, usher. That's why we're meshuga. We clean like crazy for Pesach. Why? Because the Rambam says it's davar sheyesh lo matirin. It's not really nothing fundamentally problematic about the chametz, except that the Torah says during these 8 days, right? You're not allowed to have it. But it's going to be mutter again at some point. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with it. And so I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the Rambam who categorized it as davar sheyesh lo matirin. I could be wrong about who the Rishon, but that's the very important distinction. So with that in mind, though, let's read the Mishnah Berurah here. Some of this is rereading, but I actually think it'll help to reread this to fully understand it. Yeah, Richie.
It's been bothering me all week.
Okay, let's hear it.
It says that the kli is the purpose for which it was set aside before Shabbos is now nullified.
Right.
Not just the oil, but the kli itself.
The kli which is catching it. Right.
Right.
Correct. So, that's actually the bigger problem. The oil is to me the least of the problem, because we know the oil status. The oil status is that it's set aside for an isser, and therefore, and that's how it was that went into Shabbos, and therefore oil that's set aside for an isser, meaning burning as part of a fire, is mukta. And now my ability to use that is set aside.
But the kli was set aside for some other purpose. Now you're putting it under to catch the oil.
Correct.
You've now nullified the purpose for which you set it aside before Shabbos.
To become a bus is,
Well,
and we'll get to buses. Let's not go to buses here.
Is the kli muksa because you set it aside for a different purpose. Now you've nullified that purpose.
So just to refresh from last week. So when we talk about klisha malachto leisser or muktzah, right, a vessel that's used for prohibited purposes, or muktzah,
or just used for a purpose that you didn't set it aside before Shabbos.
Or just like it's a bowl in your cabinet, right? That's a soup bowl.
Which you know in your mind is going to be used for serving, for eating.
Yeah, that's what I go.
But now you've nullified that purpose by putting it under the dripping oil.
Correct. And so
this is an accident you didn't anticipate. Suppose this every Shabbos it's dripping off, and you're going to be prepared.
Right. So if there's a bowl that is always there's a designated.
Still the same situation.
Right.
Then it's designated for that purpose. But here it says it's been mevatel kli mehechinam. That's what's bothering me. It's been bothering me all week.
Yeah, so
I couldn't sleep all week.
Yeah, all week, Richie lost sleep over this one. But mevatel kli mehechano is different than muktzah. Meaning, muktzah, as we'll learn when we get further into the laws of muktzah. I just kind of wish like all the muktzah simanim were connected, and then we could go on to another topic. But muktzah and klisha malachto, like these things are set into motion based on its status bein hashmashos. That is the time that is the determinative time for muktzah. There may be, and we'll talk a little bit about this, something to say about something is set aside even before Shabbos. For example, let's say that the example in the Gemara is that there's money, coins on a bed. Okay, and now does the mattress become prohibited if let's say you left it there and the intention was obviously to leave it there all Shabbos, but then the coins were swept off or someone came along and moved the coins now before Shabbos started. So according to the Mechaber, the determinative time is bein hashmashos. If the coins weren't there, then the bed is unaffected. The mattress is unaffected by the coins because they weren't there. According to the Ramah, there's some chumras that are involved there because the intention was that it was going to be there over Shabbos. And even though they got swept away before Shabbos started, there is some level of muktzah to the bed. Not muktzah, whatever you want to call it, buses. So here, though, this entered Shabbos as a perfectly good soup bowl. The problem here is a separate issue, which is I'm not allowed to take a perfectly good soup bowl and put it in such a situation that now I render it effectively unusable for the rest of Shabbos because it has captured and caught something that will stay in it for the rest of Shabbos, which is awesome. And I have no place to throw or dump this thing. And that's a separate issue. When I take a vessel and make it unusable, that is like it's like breaking. It's not actually, but it's as the Mishnah Berurah says, what is the problem here? It is keilu soser hakli. It is, mushabra. And that I'm not allowed to do on Shabbos, and it's like that. It's not exactly that. It's a derabbanan. It's not. No one is claiming this is a doraisa, and that's why it's a separate category. So let's take a look now at the Mishnah Berurah, and hopefully this will shed more light and help you sleep out of this week, Richie. Okay. Sif katan hey lekabel shemen. This kli underneath is receiving the oil. Aval muter last but if that picture that the Bruce had over there was a picture of dripping liquid wax or animal fat, then I'm allowed to. Why? What's the difference? Because first of all, why am I putting it there? I'm worried it's going to fall and it's going to drip and it's going to light what's underneath it. It's like a fire safety here, fire hazard, right? I don't want any issues to arise here. See, Rosh Shlomo, a sif katan hey. You see that in the Mishnah Berurah? Resh tamachay sif katan hey. See that?
Oh,
okay, good. So just a few words in now. So what do? We put a kli so that it, so that instead of falling on whatever's underneath it and perhaps it catches fire or it ruins it, I put a kli to catch whatever's dripping. Since I'm allowed, it's possible to shake, right? I'm not allowed to directly handle things that are muktzah, but here I'm not directly. It would be in of kli, and if I could shake it out or pour it out quickly into the the sink or whatever, I get rid of this substance. So then therefore I'm allowed to do that. That's why with chaylev, I don't need any leftover fat. What is the little few a few drips of leftover fat? Might not even be kosher, right? Maybe is the non-kosher fats that I was burning there. Or I take some liquefied wax right now. I'm like, ugh, what am I doing with this? This is unusable now. So I'm going to quickly pour it out when I see that it falls in. Kamosha Kostav Simon Reisha Ayin Zion, like it says in Reisha Ayin Zion, that there. By the way, I have a quick reference here in my Biur Musafim number 5. If you're following along, Tommy, right? If you need the kli, you'll shake out the liquid fat or whatever that drip. The hainu shemekari vestakli samuch laaretz. You'll bring the kli close to the ground, and you'll shake it down on the ground. I used to have dirt floors, so not a big deal, right? And whatever, and it's fine. And and what happens if there's still a little bit of a fire here? Maybe what fell was a little bit of the wick also with it. That's why maybe it's maybe will the nair will go out a little bit. Okay, you were just trying to pour the fat out, whatever. I don't know. Bottom line is here.
What's the difference between the oil?
Yeah, I mean, then you
I don't
can
understand the difference.
So we'll say so hang tight, because the oil, he's going to explain it in a second. The oil, I'm not so ready to part ways with the oil. If I catch the oil is oil. It's good.
More valuable.
Yeah, the leftover fat, the fat that falls, or the
more than anything else.
It's the xera that relates to oil. That's why by the other ones it's not a problem if I put a kli there and I catch it, because I'm not rendering this bowl unusable, because I'm happy to shake this out on the ground. I don't want this. I don't need this. But the oil, a person is not going to be so ready to, if they catch a decent amount of oil, it's valuable, and I can easily see using it in a very practical way. So he's going to explain that in a second. That's why oil is different. That's why it's dafka shemen here, not chaylev, not sha'ava. And by the way, the Shulchan Aruch has been very specific about different substances. He has mentioned, in the previous siman, he talked about sha'ava, and he talked about chaylev, and he talked about different stuff. Here he only says, this is based on what the Gemara says, the kabel shemen. Shemen is the odd one out here, and therefore he says here, because I can pour these out, I will gladly pour these other things out of that bowl when it falls in. This bowl is not done. It's not going to be holding Easter the whole day. I'll pour it out, and I gladly will use it for salad later. I might need to wash out with a little bit of water just to be
fry with it after Shabbos. I mean, it has value. You could fry with
same with the oil, right?
Yeah.
Now look what
not the chaylev of the Shabbat.
Right, correct. Look what he says now. This is not like shemen. I don't want to shake this out and lose that. It's too valuable. It's usable. Ulahami kli tachasab. So that's right there the reason. Because I will not get rid of the oil. Now I have muked the oil in the bowl, and it's there the rest of the Shabbos. That's it. It's not going anywhere. And don't come telling me, well, I'll take the oil and I'll pour it into something else. No, because now I'm mevatel kli mehecheno for that. Oh no, I'll pour it back into the bottle of oil. Now the bottle of oil is the problem, right? So the idea is that the oil is now stuck in this bowl, and now I've rendered the bowl unusable for the rest of the Shabbos. It will become usable again, but that is the issur of mevatel kli mehecheno. And he says here, ulahami kli tachas apecham shiberosh hapsila sheyipol lesocho osler. And if I stand up a kli, I place a vessel underneath. Now the pecham is like coals, right? So it's like charred. Yeah, the
charred part of the wick.
The char, right? Shiberosh hapsila, which is at the end of the wick, right? So at the end of the wick, it's the charred part of it. Okay. Sheyipol lesocha. I'm worried. It'll fall in. And now we're talking fire safety here a little bit. Right, I don't want that the end of it is gonna fall, and I don't want it to fall onto something else that it could damage or ruin. So I put a kli under it, or if I want to put a kli under it, that's osur. That's not allowed. Unless there is some great loss here, if there's a potential for some great financial loss as a result of me not putting it there, right? That's going to set something on fire. Okay, that's a different
I
story.
have a question. So let's say
Yeah.
you took oil and you decided to use it for the nair, right?
Yeah.
And after Shabbat is over, now you have an extra. Can you use that? It was designated for Shabbat.
Say it again. Sorry, one more time.
You took oil, you put it designated on the side to use it for Shabbat for candles. Or
I mean, it was already poured into
Right.
before Shabbat. Okay.
you have extra now after Shabbat. Can you use it for?
Yes. Yes. It is not that. But
So the issue is here with the oil is that you might keep it and then use it for after Shabbat.
right.
And but at the same time, you made this.
Now, what am I do with the bowl? The bowl, I
You're
can't
not
do
gonna
anything on
throw it out
Shabbat.
And you're gonna use it.
The bowl is
you
just
use
holding.
it and it's gone.
That's right. For Shabbat, now I can't use this for the soup, for the whatever. It's now holding something that is asur, and
You're gonna
so
keep
it's
it, that's
done.
what you want the
So,
oil.
right. So now what am I going to do? I took a good bowl, and it's not usable. And the Chazal didn't want us to do that. They didn't want that you on the Shabbat you're taking your bowls and or whatever, and now you're catching things, and now making perfectly good soup bowls or salad bowls into the holders of muktzah. That's what they didn't want. So here you're not allowed to do this with this. Now, what's the problem here? Why is it usher? Why can't I just catch it? Why is it different than we said before? It's not like a wick, the edge of a wick. It's unusable. It falls in. I don't want that. That should be like the chaylev or the shava. So the difference is that the Shulchan Aruch Harav says that that and this is number 6, by the way, Tommy, if you're looking over there. He says dehainu. It's not fully put out yet. When it falls in, it comes with a little fire too. And so what's the problem? I can't actually shake it out because that's the problem. Now that's mechabe, right? I'm putting the fire out. So there's a little at the edge of it. I put it there in case the wick falls. With its fire, it falls in. Oh, it actually happens. The wick falls in. There's a fire. Now I have a fire here. I cannot take it and shake it out. That's putting out a fire. That's a bigger problem. That's the problem of mechabe. And since that's the reality of it, I'm trying to catch a fallen wick. I won't be able to shake it out. So the Shulchan Aruch Harav says, that's why it's us here, because they don't want you to end up violating mechabe, the prohibition of extinguishing a flame. And that's no other reason. Otherwise, I'd be happy to get rid of it, but because of the mechabe issue, the rabbis didn't want you to catch it. Again, unless there was a makom hefsed, unless there's a tremendous amount of financial loss that will result from this. Right, if it falls onto my grand piano underneath, and I lose my $1,000 grand piano, it'll be ruined and burned. Then it's a bigger deal. Now today, of course, we're very cautious about these things. Our fire safety is much higher, which makes a lot of sense because our homes are much more flammable than the ones in times of Chazal. Their floors were literally dirt. It was not. Not saying that there was no danger presented by fire. There, of course, was, but it wasn't. I don't think it was quite the same. That's why if you look at the Parakol Kisvei in Masechah Shabbos, talks about there's a fire in the house. What things should you grab further? Save the Kisvei HaKodesh, save this. Anyone will tell you, hey, there's a fire in your house. Get out. Right, there's not enough time to start. This you can put out. You can't put out the fire if it's something's on fire in your house. You can't put it out if it's this, that. What are you talking about? If there's a fire in your house today on Shabbos, you put it out right away because the fire will spread so quickly. It presents a danger to your own life. It presents a danger to the lives of the neighbors. Things can happen very quickly. So today we have
but they had stone houses
right
in the Middle East.
Right.
It was not wood.
Right. So therefore, exactly, the fire safety, issues today are much greater for us than Chazal. That's why they talk about these things. Well, if it's on fire, you can't put it out on Shabbos. What do you mean you can't put it out on Shabbos? Because
you have to take certain meals out before you.
Right. Exactly. Shalosh. Yeah, but even that, there's. Right, you can only save a certain amount of food that's burning. But if your house is on fire, you today get the fire extinguisher and put it out because people's lives. Even if you can get out and the house will go on fire, right? But you never know that fire can spread to other people and other people's homes, and they might not be aware. Whatever.
You're endangering the lives of the firefighters.
Also correct. People are putting their life on the line to try to put it out. Correct. Anyway, so there's a mokum hefse. Then, of course, then you put the kli underneath to catch it. But someone should say, but Rabbi Klinger, I mean, it'll go out. How long will the wick last? I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 30. Some point, this thing that fell off is going to go out on its own, and then I'll shake it out, and then the kli is good. So he says here, it is still considered meaning nullifying the vessel from its prepared usage. Lefisha, alcohol panim. You know what? At least for the time that thing is burning, it's unusable. And kevan sheyev shalanara miyad, since I'm not able to immediately shake it out, therefore I, at least for some time, I'm not able to use it, and that's enough that it's called. Okay, now take a look at
Shabbos, but they're saying because here
you could.
use it.
But here the problem is I changed the status even for a short amount of time.
Right.
As long as I could shake it out immediately, even if I don't shake it out immediately, but as long as I could shake it out immediately, so I have not changed the status of this cleat from being potentially used as a salad bowl, right? But if there's a little fire in there for an hour or 30 minutes or 10 minutes, now I am not able to use that as a salad bowl for 10 minutes, and that's even that qualifies as being mevatel the kli. Take a look at Sif Katan Vav. This again will help, I think, put a bow or at least clarify a lot of these issues about mevatel kli me'echeno. Sif Katan Vav shayamuchan mitchila letaltelo. Look, this thing was movable the whole Shabbos. Okay, I could use it for whatever. For it could hold soup, salad. It could be the holder of a bowl of nuts, whatever. The achshav also betiltul, and now it's carrying in it things that are prohibited from moving. Okay, now very important. I will stand by my what I said last week. Why achshav asro also will betiltul mechamas hashemen shebesocho shehu muktzeh mechamas yisur. The oil that's in there is muktzeh because it is set aside. It is aser that was set aside to be burned. And therefore, now I can't carry the contents. I can't carry the bowl because of the contents, the oil, which are prohibited. As it says in Siman Reish Ayin Tes, the Chachamim also levatel kli mehecheno, and the Chachamim who said I'm not allowed to take a perfectly good bowl and make it now into the holder of something which is prohibited for me to move. And because it is like destroying and breaking the vessel.
Well, what does the tool come into place here?
Tool.
You could do the other things except the oil, but you make the tool also when you take it out and you clean it.
You say when I catch the chaylev.
Yeah.
So there, right? Because the difference is, you're allowed to do like what I would call a tiltul min hatzad. You could take something and you can tilt it, move it, tilt it over, right? And get rid of it, right? Here, though, I'm not actually going to I don't want the oil to go out. So therefore, if I do move the bowl, I am not just, getting rid of the substance in the bowl. Here now I'm moving the oil, right? Oh, okay, now I'm going to move the oil to a different place so that my kids don't knock it over. The bowl is now full. I'm going to get another bowl so that it continues to drip into another bowl. I'm moving the oil. Here, when I push the bowl over, or even if I sort of bring it down to the ground or whatever, I knock it down to the ground and I kind of dump it over. That's different. I'm just knocking it over, and I want the oil to just the chaylev to just get absorbed into the dirt floor. But the oil, I'm going to pick up the bowl and I'm going to move it. I don't want the contents of the bowl to fall out. So that's just tiltul, right? That's not like tiltul min hatzad that sometimes you push something and then it goes. This is just carrying. This is just moving the item.
But you're in your own house.
Yeah. It's underneath the flame that you lit.
Is there moving things in your own house? On your own domain. You're not
Yes,
outside.
yes. It depends. This is not an issue of this is not an issue of that there's no Eruv or something like that. The issue here is that there are certain things I'm not allowed to move on Shabbos. And an example of that, let's say, is if I go out, and then let's say this is outside, not inside my home, but let's say they had dirt floors and
It's a bench issue about creating a furrow.
right. But I was saying he wants to say something inside your own home. Inside your own home. I don't think we would say that.
If the bench was like
Oh yeah,
dirt
correct. If you're
indoors,
right. And I'm saying like yes,
so
that
it was dirt.
but let's talk about muktzah here, right? Let's say that there is there's just dirt on all my floor is dirt. I'm not allowed to unless I set aside a particular corner, and the Gemara describes. Oh, this corner, I'm going to use this dirt on Shabbos. Then you can use it, but otherwise, I'm not allowed to take the dirt and pick up the dirt over here and move it over here for some. No, dirt is dirt. Dirt is muktzah unless I before Shabbos prepare the dirt that there's a usage for it that I would like to have. So it can't even be inside. It can't even be inside your own home. Money, coins, right? That are in your wallet, that are on your table, that have been left on your. That is not. You cannot just carry that regularly. But the oil was set aside for an Isser, right? Because it's fuel now, right? That's how it was set aside and designated for Shabbos. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with oil, and you might actually have another bottle of oil that's you plan on using with the food, over Shabbos. So that's the difference.
Right.
So he says here,
if you designated the oil for salad dressing, it's different than having it in a kli that's burning.
right? And I don't even think you need to designate it as I'm going to use it for salad. It could just be sitting in the bottle of olive oil, right? Just on your counter.
Right.
It doesn't need to be. I don't even need to say, "Oh, I'm going to have the oil on my salad." We assume oil is mutter unless you make it into something usher, right? And if you before Shabbos pour it into the lamp that you see in the one that Bruce is using there, then it's usher now because it's designated as fuel.
And the dripping oil, the purpose of putting the bowl under the dripping oil, which you're not allowed to do.
Right,
You're not allowed to do. The purpose is saving the oil.
Saving the oil, exactly. Which you might do, by the way. Again, we think about the Shabbos candles as something that's so unique to Shabbos. They lit candles every night. Every night. So they might have had a standard practice. They didn't want to waste the oil, so every night they probably they take a random bowl and they catch the oil because they didn't want to waste the oil. So that's
But they said you can't use it on Shabbos.
on Shabbos you can't do
because
that.
you're taking the kli away from its intended purpose.
Correct. Now it's
That's
interesting. Right, exactly.
It's not talking about the oil. It's talking about the kli.
Right. That's right.
So I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It becomes a basis.
In some ways, I don't know if it's officially a buses, but it just becomes unusable. Unusable.
Because you're being mevatel its intended use.
Right.
That's the reason again.
Yes.
So
he says here, by the way, continuing Mishnah Berurah, in yesh bakli davar hamutar. Now this helps. Okay. So let's say in the kli that's catching the oil, there's also something mutar. Right, lettuce, exactly. So mutar lahanicho tachas lekala bo shemen. Then go ahead, put it there and let it catch the shemen. Not a problem at all at that point. Because now in this bowl there is something mutar and something aser.
Yeah, but then the purpose is that not to use the oil was designated. Now you can use it because you have the lettuce in there.
No, I can't use the oil.
no, can't use the oil.
The oil is
You
still
can
not
move
usable.
the bowl.
Let's say, that's why I used last week the double-sided, where, again, my family used to use this a lot. There was the rice on one side and the potatoes on the other side. And there was one dish.
No.
So one side of the dish has the potatoes, and then the other side is you put it, you angle it, you put it in the right spot, so the oil drips on that side. Now, I'm allowed to sort of circumvent the rules here. I know this. I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? I want to catch the oil. I want to save the oil, but the only way I can actually move this thing or do this on Shabbos is in a way that I'm not mevatel lekli, but I'm not mevatel lekli because it has the potatoes in it too on the other side of this dish, and so therefore, right, I'm it's this thing is movable. I have potatoes, perfectly good potatoes that I planned on serving on maybe the Shabbos meal. So I'm catching the oil. And when we get to the the main course, hopefully I'll have caught enough oil that I'll have just. I see it's dripping, so I caught enough oil. Now, okay, now I'll scrape the potatoes. But I can move it because of the potatoes. Ode eight the neck. So that's that. Then he says, Ode eight up.
So I have a question then. You're allowed to use the oil or not? You're saying that
No, the oil is not usable, but I'm allowed to. But I wasn't mevatel the kli. Because I want to put the potatoes on. The potatoes are on there. I want to put them on the dining room table, so that everyone can take the
What about
potatoes.
the oil that sits over there?
I'll make sure to announce. I'll announce to everyone at the table. Please don't use the oil. The oil is muktzah. I happened to catch it from the oil from the lamp that was dripping. That clearly I need to buy a new lamp because it's got a leak. And please don't use the oil. But the potatoes, feel free to help yourself.
So when you move that, can you put another cleat to catch the rest of the oil coming down?
Presumably, not if it also has another side to it. That's the broccoli, the broccoli over here, and then the empty side over there, right? And at some point, yes, you may actually lose the oil because unless you have something that you're going to serve Shabbos day, and you put it into a bowl that's a double-sided bowl or something like that, and then you catch it. Yeah.
Irrigates the potato.
That's why, if you notice in my example, I kept it separate because to actually have the oil go onto the lettuce, for example, or whatever, to dress the salad that way, that's usher because that the oil is the problem here. The oil is then making the kli not usable. The oil is for sure a problem on Shabbos, so that's why you have to catch it in a way such that it doesn't at least purposefully mix into the other. But we're going to get to the whole mixing issue in a moment, actually. So hold on, and then you'll see that it's a problem if it falls onto lettuce, and that's going to go back to the davar sheyesh lo matirin piece that I mentioned before. Now, Od eight acheres custom b'tshuvas Maharil. The Maharil also mentions a nice piece of advice. The Magen agrees with this advice. The Yasim klimin ba'ojom tachat hashulchan. That this thing is dripping, okay, and presumably maybe these it was hanging, like a hanging lamp was hanging above the table where you ate. Now, please be very cautious in thinking this through. I tell my students this. I told them recently because I'm teaching them Zech Psach, my 8th grade students, and they said you have to be very careful when you talk about a table in the days of Chazal. Very different than our dining room tables. Our dining room tables are basically, for the most part, we can move them, but we don't usually move them. They stay where they are. In the days of Chazal, when they were done with a meal, they would literally remove the table. They would literally move the table. Because why? They all ate on individual tables, almost like a TV dinner tray. And then they were done. They would take it and they would move it. So you have here a table that's movable.
Yeah, that was in Mishnah times.
Correct.
Yeah, but in the times of the Mechaber.
For sure, they were not moving their tables as much as they were. Correct. So you're saying, I'm saying that maybe there's still something here, something there. They here they're still talking about a movable table, or one that would be easily movable. Obviously, you could always move your table.
Yeah,
but
they had very small houses.
Right. So it probably wasn't the biggest.
Every room had many different purposes.
Right.
So when they were eating, they brought out the table. When they weren't eating, they...
Correct. So here the advice was before Shabbos, you have a leaky lamp. So put a bowl underneath the table where it will drip when you move the table. So you're going to eat your meal. You're going to lose some oil on the dripping on the table. It is what it is. Or maybe you'll do the potato trick. Right? And then when the meal is over, Uv'Shabbos achar achila, you're done with the meal. Yasir shulchan, you remove the table. V'aklio me'atzmo tachas there. Lo and behold, look at that. The bowl happened to be in the right spot.
Prepared before Shabbos.
Prepared before Shabbos. Very important. V'aftehu gorein b'Shabbos levatel kli b'hecheno. And even though, you say, oh well, you caused this kli on Shabbos to become unusable. Al yidei hasaras hashulchan, by the removal of this table. Mikol mokom shari. Nevertheless, it's permissible. Since you didn't actively do it, you didn't take it with your hands and put the bowl underneath the oil.
Putting it in the first place.
But I did it before Shabbos, and it's important actually to note.
So you put it there before Shabbos, so then it's muktzah.
The bowl
is there to collect.
On that point, Steve, you're actually 100% correct. Now the bowl is not really used. If you look
So you wouldn't be able to move that bowl at all on Shabbos, right?
Right.
What Steve said.
Correct. But now you're at least you're saving the shemen. In the first iteration, I can't save the shemen because it's also to put the bowl there.
But
Here,
you
I'm
did-
saving the shemen.
you did this before Shabbos.
Clever. Right. That's true. You could, well, that may be a little bit different though, because
People
here
were on the table,
that's no, but
on
he's
the
saying it's like
but here it's under.
right.
the
You
table.
probably don't need to move it because it was there when the table was there, so you'll just put the table back over top of it on Shabbos day. So you leave it there. Let's say you leave it there. Right.
So anyway, so
I hear.
the table is here. The lamp is there. It's dripping. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a bowl full of potatoes. Okay, and I put the bowl full of potatoes under the dripping oil.
Right.
I'm allowed to do that.
Right. If it doesn't mix with the potatoes, yeah.
So now I have another bowl under the table that I prepared before Shabbos
Correct.
because
When we're done,
now I'm taking the table away.
but I want to save the oil.
I want, or yeah, save the oil or whatever it is. We don't want it dripping and pooling, whatever. I don't know,
Right.
but whatever the purpose is,
Right.
that bowl was prepared before Shabbos. One under the table. The one on the table had the potatoes in it. I could put it on Shabbos.
Correct. So now you've created a system where if I have a leaky lamp, which I'm as we're talking it more, I'm like, this is probably what the situation was. Like the person had a little hole, and like it wasn't so easy just to go out and buy another lamp, and you dealt with the leak, and you caught the oil, and then you put it back in the next every on a Wednesday, on Thursday. So on Shabbos, how do I save my oil? Potatoes. And then, by the way, one day they're gonna be watching this on YouTube, and they're gonna be writing forum about, what are some of the, people in the 21st century hold about certain issues. They're gonna talk there was this eitzah about the potatoes, dafka only potatoes, no other foods. No, so you'll put something else to catch it, and then the bowl underneath catches the rest of the oil. That's the way you would deal with it.
When you're intentionally preparing to violate something, how does that make sense? If it was randomly that it was there, the potato bowl, but you're purposely preparing, putting potatoes in the bowl, knowing you're gonna catch it.
Because the bowl is never going to be rendered prohibited. There's no tinok or lechem here, right? They could have put the baby underneath the oil.
Baby lotion.
That's right, baby lotion. But that's an interesting idea.
Put the loaf of bread on top of the
Yeah.
bowl.
Yeah. So take.
This is a totally other intentional.
Yeah, look, that's why I said Chazal are building in here how to circumvent the rule. The idea is that as long as the bowl is not rendered unusable, and this was his eitzah, by the way. This is the Maharil at the end. He said, this is a good eitzah. This is a later idea. Why? Because I'm not biadayim. I'm not actively doing it, and therefore it's okay. And yes, how can I do it with the potato trick? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't violate the rule of making the kli unusable. And as long as I am continuing to be able to use all my kalim, so I'm not taking away from Shabbos, and like as we're breaking, not actually breaking, I'm breaking a kli.
I just hope
on Shabbos.
Tommy or I do not accidentally kick the ball.
Take the potatoes out. He's talking about the bowl underneath.
Thing, but the bowl it's dripping into with the potatoes. You would think the bowl remains an issue with the oil dripping in. You have to take the potatoes out. So it's not to move the potatoes.
You don't. Yeah, that's. But this is classic. This is classic Chazal. Not Chazal. This is classic in the sense that there's a rule. And by the way, people do this in secular all the time. There's a rule. And then it takes you a few minutes to think about how am I going to circumvent this rule so that, right, exactly, I know that this is not allowed, but if I do this, it becomes mutter by the letter of the law, and that's sort of what's happening here. But by making you think these things through, right, Chazal were trying to ensure that all of your dishes are staying in the realm of usable on Shabbos. We don't want things to be taken away from Shabbos. And I think that's really what's sort of underlying this is, yes, so you made a workaround. Okay, but you know what? At the end of the day, you were trying to make a workaround so that you could keep all your bowls and vessels and this usable for Shabbos. So in some ways, Chazal's goal has been met in that they're trying to get you to keep all your things ready for Shabbos. Again.
I think
Well, this is because they don't want you to see your sculling, hard iron sculling that's dripping on the floor.
Right. So exactly. Probably part of this also is a hefsek. When there's when there's a hefsek when it comes to money, people there's Adam Bahul. Gemara talks about this. Adam Bahul al Mamona. People are when it comes to their money, sometimes they will bend the rules. We see this in the secular law too, but people will bend the rules of halacha. No one's looking. I'm going to do this to save my money. So rather give you an outlet to do it in a winter way.
When we buy olive oil today, it's expensive, but we have no idea how expensive it was in those days.
Right.
We have no idea. Like when Alicia woman needed money.
Right.
The miracle was she filled all her vessels with oil. To, buy back her children.
Right. We're like, come on, that's $20 to get a bottle of olive oil. It's no big deal, right? $20. Yeah. For them, it was a much bigger deal.
Right.
Much bigger deal.
It was a very, very expensive stuff, and every drop is like.
And I'll add in, maybe this helps put in context, but let's say a person is living paycheck to paycheck or something like that, and they buy their groceries every week, and they really are very careful at watching, what they have only X amount of dollars to spend. When you buy a bottle of olive oil that's $20, you're really thinking twice about that kind of a purchase. I'm not saying you're not going to make the purchase, but meaning,
but if it was $300 for a bottle of
then all of us would start to think twice about how we use it. Right, correct.
Well, olive oil probably in the Middle East wasn't that expensive because you had a lot of it.
It was native.
But in Europe, Eastern Europe, olive oil was a delicacy. I mean, it was good.
Wine also. Wine too. We read halachas. If you don't have enough wine for Havdalah and Kiddush, whatever.
You Sheikh Hamadina, right?
Well, the whole idea of what do you use that little bit of wine you have? We can't think of it's out of our realm. In the era of
right,
affluent.
Very plentiful.
You live in an era of affluence. It's hard to understand these laws,
Right.
But the oil was extremely expensive and extremely necessary. Like, what do you do in a dark house without any lamps burning? What do you?
Correct. So let's keep going here. We're just a few more minutes. So he says here. Furthermore, that which we're not careful today from placing a vessel on the table under the candle, under the flame, even though the oil is dripping. This goes to your point, by the way, Richie. Right? We're not so careful to bother collecting this, right? Why? Right? Sorry. Other way around. We're not careful to not place something underneath there. Meaning people put things on the table underneath the thing all the time. We're not thinking about collecting the oil and whatnot. Right? We're, right? When people are putting it on the table, they're not thinking about catching the oil. They're thinking about whatever. I'm putting out my dishes. I'm putting my this, and it's dripping into it. Okay, whatever. It wasn't people. He says that's not when people ain't needs hurry. Meaning we're not careful not to put things underneath. And he's maybe trying to justify why are we not so careful, because we're not so we don't have such an intention for this. And similarly, we don't have ein miskaven kishemesu ashulchan ela lahatzalas ashulchan shel yipol alav haner. Right? Why are we taking the table away? Right? When we're taking the table away, we actually want to save the table. The oil is ruining my table. So part of this is that
worried about the lamp falling on. It doesn't say about the shemen falling on. It says the lamp falling on the table.
Right. Oh, you're saying not the oil. Sorry, you don't want the nair, right? Which would be, it's going to set the table on fire or something like that, right? The actual, right?
It's just, this is outside the
right. Meaning we're not trying to catch, right? I think maybe that's what he's trying to say. We're not trying to. When we put the bowl there, our kavanah is not the oil today. He's saying, I just don't want the table to catch on fire, right? So I put the bowl there while we're using the table. God forbid that the thing falls with the flame or whatever, right? So it should fall into a bowl. Better than that for catching on fire. I don't care about the shemen. And maybe I'm happy to. I'll pour the shemen out. Not so important to me. And then what happens when I remove the table? Why do I need to have a bowl there, right? Or why do I move the table in general in the first place, right? Why am I moving the table? That's what he's saying here, right? When we move the table, we're just trying to save the table. I don't want the table to get ruined. So why do I have the bowl there? Because I don't want the fire to fall on the ground. I don't want there to be a fire in my house. I don't want there to be, and that's why it's not about catching the oil. They're saying maybe the reason that we're not so careful about this halacha today, right, is because the kavana is not about the catching of the oil; it's about preventing the fire. And therefore, I'm just putting the bowl there. I don't care about the oil. The oil falls in, whatever. I don't want the. I don't, you know, I don't want the oil. It's not my thing. Okay, let's take a look at back in the Shulchan Aruch. I know that was a lot of Mishnah Berurah we just did. Take a look here, and then we're just about the kids minyan, the team minyan at 9:00, so we'll stop in 2 minutes. Where was I? Okay, here. So back in the last line of the Mishnah Shulchan Aruch, I'm allowed to put this bowl here though before Shabbos starts to catch the oil. And the oil that drips into this bowl over Shabbos. I'm not allowed to use it, the oil that falls in over Shabbos. So I can't go to the bowl and take some of that and use it for the salad or whatever. And Ramah has in here the Aser Liga Bener Dole Kishehu Talui. And I'm not allowed to touch the candle, right? The lamp when it's burning, when it's talui, it's hanging, right? It's kashu talui. It's like hanging from the ceiling. I'm not allowed to go over and touch it. I'm not moving it. I'm just touching it. Usually, as I've told you that Rabbi Soloveitchik story before, right? That the boy who was touching the candelabra, and just like the design on it or something like that. That's not a problem to touch usually, right? Touching something is not wrong. The problem is moving muktzah. So if I want to touch muktzah, no problem in general. But here he says though, here we're not going to allow you to do that because it's hanging. And pen yisnad ktas minigi aso. You try as much to not move it, but it's because of the nature of it being hanging. Even the slightest touch may cause this to shift and to move. And then what happened? It will lean a little bit this way, and then that moves the oil around. Now you're adjusting the flame on Shabbos. So therefore, if you ever have I don't know if you guys have these kind of things in your home. I don't in my house, but if you have hanging lamps, right, where there's actually a fire, to just do a little tap on it on Shabbos is very problematic because you're now really actually readjusting the flame. Forget muktzah. That's a bigger issue now because now you tilted it this way, so the oil moves this way, and then it makes the wick, it makes the flame go brighter. Exactly. So that's a bigger issue.
That's just Negia.
That's right. That's just even the touching of it.
On an electric, that would be.
Correct. That's right. That's right.
Normally, Negia B'alma with muktzah is not a.
Correct. Just the touching, it's moving muktzah. Here, the problem is that because if it's nature of being of hanging, the ever so slightest touch can move it, or at least that's the fear.
It tilted slightly, moves the oil in it, and that can
affect
the flame.
Correct. All right, we'll pause here. We'll do the Mishnah Berurah on what we just read next time, Zayin through Yud Aleph, which hopefully shouldn't take us that long, and then we'll do Sif Dalid next week as well. About catching the nitzotzos that are underneath the lamp, and well, in 2 weeks I assume we'll finish this simon, and we'll be on to what happens when you're on the road when Shabbos starts by accident, and now you have money on you, and you have other items that are forbidden on Shabbos on you, and what do you do with them in order to preserve your property and preserve the nature of Shabbos? All right, everyone, have a wonderful day. Great learning with everybody, and see you next time. Oh, actually, I'll leave this on for a second. Next Sunday, I apologize. a big mazel tov, Will's wedding next Sunday. And also, I next Sunday I am moving. So next Sunday I will not be able to give shiur, and I'm realizing also that the following Sunday is Purim. So that's not just with the Megillah readings going on and the programming. So we'll pick up in on the 31st, which is the day of the shul dinner. So